Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Screenstars and welcome to my classic DC review for 1989's Batman. The film is directed by Tim Burton and it stars Michael Keaton, Jack Nicholson, Kim Basinger, Robert Wool, Pat Hingle, and Billy D. Williams. Right. Where do you start with this one? This was, at the time when it came out in 1989, the first big, massive on-screen adaptation of The Dark Knight Batman. This is a film that I went to see at the cinema. I was stupidly excited to go and see. It was a cultural phenomenon when it came out. It was a box office smash hit. And it was just one of the most fun experiences I'd ever had at a cinema at that time. Very, very memorable going to see this. And I went to see it a few times, in actual fact. So, yeah, I mean, the story itself it's not really a Batman origin story, even though it's very clearly at the beginning of his career. Because at the beginning of the film, you know, you've got these criminals discussing this Bat character that seems to be taking them out. It's some kind of mystery. The police don't really know who he is, what's going on. They're all denying it. And also Jack Nicholson's character, the Joker, is essentially at the beginning of the film, he works for the mob. He works for Jack Palance, who is Grissom, who's like a massive mob boss. But Jack Nicholson's character, Jack Napier, is having an affair with Grissom's wife or girlfriend, so he sets him up. So essentially this ends up with Jack Nicholson's character being thrust into some chemicals, comes out the other side, and is transformed into the Joker. He takes his revenge out on Grissom, and he decides that he's fed up of Batman taking all the headlines, and he's going to take Gotham by storm. And it is up to Batman to put a stop to this new menace called the Joker. Right, Batman now. I mean, what is there to say about this? I think these days, I think it's fair to say people have been spoiled when it comes to superhero films, especially Batman. You know what I mean? You had this, Batman, and it's my intention to review all these Batman films, and I mean like these four films. We've got Batman, Batman Returns, Batman Forever, and God help me, Batman and Robin. And those were like, you know, big films and stuff. And then it wasn't really until obviously Christopher Nolan got hold of the franchise and we got like a new perspective on the character, and then it got grittier and darker and so on and so forth. And then it's just evolved from there, the Batman character on screen. We've had big screen adaptations, we've had small screen adaptations, you know, this led on to the incredible Batman, the animated series with the legendary and now sadly passed Kevin Conroy voicing Batman. And that series adopted the stylings of this film, the Tim Burton stylings, and obviously the iconic Danny Elfman score. There's so much about this film that has kind of embedded itself into like the lore of Batman that I think a lot of people take it for granted. Now, I think a lot of people don't necessarily take this film seriously anymore, and they absolutely should, because I've rewatched it, and it's probably I don't know, maybe I was about to say a decade since I last saw it, but it's probably a bit less than that, because I used to watch these Batman films quite a lot with my son when he was a bit younger. But this is a bloody good film, you know. As far as when you got to remember when it came out as well, 1989. I mean, fantastic stuff. As there always is in regards to Batman castings, controversies. I remember at the time was Michael Keaton was cast as Batman. And I remember being stories in the papers and all sorts of things, because obviously at that time we didn't have the internet and social media. It was all in newspapers and stuff. Massive backlash at the casting of Michael Keaton. Understandably so. He was more known at the time for doing comedy stuff. He wasn't really known for doing anything else. Michael Keaton, I think the biggest thing he'd done up to this point was Beetlejuice. Even though he'd done a lot of stuff like the Dream Team and all sorts of stuff, you know what I mean? I'm not sure if the Dream Team came out before or after this. It might have been the same year. So he was known, Michael Keaton. He was just, you know, quite a controversial casting, but it absolutely works. He was great as Batman. Absolutely great. And I think the heartbreaking thing for me is, we know that he was supposed to be coming back as Batman, I think, in this new Batgirl film that's been shelved. And is he in Flash as well? What's happening with that film? We don't know. So I'm desperately worried that we're not going to see Michael Keaton now back as Batman these days. And I really, really want to see that, because he's iconic as Batman. He's like the original on-screen Batman. What do you have to remember as well is, for me, at the time when this came out, the only real screen adaptation I'd seen of Batman was the Adam West TV show that I used to love as a kid during the school holidays, watching that on a Saturday morning and a weekday mornings. Campy as hell, lots of fun, but it was not to be taken seriously, obviously. And then you get this dark and gothic take on the character that Tim Burton gave us. That was just outstanding, really. I mean, the set design, the costumes. I think, and I think there's a debate to be had, but I think the Michael Keaton Batman costume is the best one that's been put on screen. I think the mistake they've been making since this is they tried to make it practical and work in the real world. Just make it look bloody cool, guys. I mean, it looks cool in this. He couldn't turn his head. He couldn't even hear, apparently, Michael Keaton with the costume on over his head. But it looked damn cool. And don't get me started on the design of the Batmobile. Hands down, the best Batmobile, again, that has ever been put to screen. I'll have that debate with anybody. Yes, the Tumbler in the Dark Knight films is incredible. And the one in Batman vs Superman, they've all been good since. Even the one in The Batman was pretty cool, but none of them compare to the Batmobile that we get in this film and Batman Returns. And they started getting a bit silly after that in Batman Forever and things like that. And Batman and Robin, they looked very stupid, I think. But iconic design, iconic costumes. And then we get on to Jack Nicholson as the Joker. What do you say? Many people, and myself included, will point to Heath Ledger as the most iconic Joker performance. Some people would say Joaquin Phoenix for his performance as the Joker. And they're all debatable. My personal favourite is Heath Ledger. I just think he gave an incredible performance as Joker. Sinister. But Jack Nicholson's performance as Joker in this is stunning. Stunningly realised. You can see he's having a ball with the character, and apparently it's one of his favourite characters he's ever played because he loved the creative freedom that was given to him when he was playing Joker. It's wonderful. Fantastic performance by Jack Nicholson. He steals every single scene he is in. And he very, very smartly as well took a percentage of the box office when he took this part. Because he did hesitate initially. He didn't initially accept the part. He hesitated, and they offered it to Robin Williams, who accepted the part. And then, sneakily, Warner Brothers went back to Jack Nicholson and says, look, if you don't accept the part, Robin Williams has taken it. So he then accepted it. So they released Robin Williams, which really annoyed Robin Williams to the point where he refused to come back and play the Riddler in Batman Forever. And in actual fact, he refused to make a film with Warner Brothers for a number of years because he was so annoyed by what they did. Very sneaky. But as good as Robin Williams would have been as the Joker, it's hard to imagine anybody else playing Joker in this film other than Jack Nicholson because he's just so good. And the debate, it's actually quite funny now, the debate as well that people have when they watch films like Batman versus Superman, and they say, oh, Batman's really violent in that. He's killing folk. He's just killed that person. Sorry, guys. Just take a look at Michael Keaton in this. He doesn't mind killing people in this. In fact, he does it a number of times. So that debate, I think, whether Batman kills, has been put to rest in the very first film, and he continues that trend certainly into the second one, Batman Returns, as well. So I do think it's funny that people have that furious debate these days, but then conveniently forget certainly this film. Some names that were kind of considered for the role of Batman were apparently Mel Gibson, but he was committed to Lethal Weapon 2, I think, so he couldn't take it. Ray Liotta, interestingly, was considered, and as was Pierce Brosnan, who went as far as to meet the director but apparently he couldn't take the character seriously, which probably makes sense, especially when you consider him doing Black Adam recently. You could see in some of the interviews he was doing afterwards that he was a little bit uncomfortable doing a superhero film, but he really didn't need to be because he was great in Black Adam. So yeah, it's an iconic film. It's a classic Batman film. I think it's absolutely brilliant. It's really fun, really entertaining, stylistically brilliant, great score, great performances, iconic on-screen performances. Some of the things that don't work for me, I didn't think the chemistry between Michael Keaton and Kim Basinger was particularly good. The Robert Wool character, this Alexander Knox, the film didn't need. I thought Billy D. Williams and Pat Hingle were miscast as Commissioner Gordon and Harvey Dent. But these are fairly minor niggles, I would say, for what is overall a really, really fantastic classic Batman film. So stay tuned, guys. I will be revisiting the other Batman films going forward, but I hope you enjoyed this review. I'll be back with more content and reviews on the channel very, very soon.